Innovator TV, the network for innovators. I'm Bambi Francisco. Well, venture capital investing is down. About $7.1 billion went into 907 deals in the third quarter. That's down 7% from the same period a year ago. Well, joining me to talk about what's happening across venture capital is Brian Asher. He's a partner at Venrock. Brian, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Over the last year, I guess I've noticed that or last maybe 18 months, I've noticed it's consistently been about $7 billion going into venture investing. Where do you see that going in the fourth quarter and in 2009?
Yeah, so I think the trend will continue to be down, and it'll be a couple of reasons. One is, right now, folks are a bit paralyzed, taking a wait-and-see attitude to how it shakes out. But I don't think you'll see whole firms shutter the shingles and close up shop the way it did during the last bubble bursting. But the bar gets raised, and you're only going to fund companies that are very, very solid and have credible business models that are more known up front, as opposed to the build it and they'll come and we'll figure it out later. And so as the bar gets raised, there's fewer companies that pass through that filter.
No, but do you even have time to sure the bar's raised, but do you even have the bandwidth to look at new companies? I was speaking with Jeremy Liu from Lightspeed, and he said, I can't even get my head up to look at anything new, and I don't plan to do that until the first quarter. Are you waiting till the end of first quarter? Are you waiting till the first quarter, or are you being aggressive today?
I would say that we're definitely in market making new investments. Closed a deal just this week, so we're not out of the market, but I wouldn't go so far as to say aggressive. This is time for careful, thoughtful investing, not aggressive.
Is there money? I recall speaking to somebody at PricewaterhouseCoopers, I believe, was there, and there was an overhang in 2008 in terms of how much was raised and how much was invested in 2007. So there's a lot of money to be spent. Do we still have that overhang?
I think we do, but firms are cautious of the fact that once they've invested all their capital, new fundraising for venture firms is really tough right now. There's a lot of folks planning to go into the market early or now because they're just worried it's going to get worse and worse and worse. So I don't think firms feel this pressing need, I got to put the money out there. Because right now you also don't know how much you need to set aside in reserve for follow-on financings of your own companies. If there are no other investors, it's the insiders who have to write checks.
Now, the first 6 months of this year, there was a study that showed that 82% of startups said they actually closed at a higher valuation than the prior year. How are those numbers looking like today? What do you think the companies, the startups raising money this quarter and next quarter are going to say about their valuations?
Yeah. So it's interesting. In the public markets, it's an immediate and brutal drop in valuation. In the private markets, it takes a little time for everyone to reset their expectations, and for those new deals that are just getting first meetings now and starting to negotiate price to really reflect the realities of the environment. But they will come down. They have to come down because the exit assumptions are down.
And you have to look at the public
Absolutely.
market.
There's no IPO market, and M&A is going to be down too.
What were you considering? You talked a little bit about being more discerning now. I mean, but of course you've always been discerning, but even more so now, I'm sure. What were some of the opportunities you were open to considering a year ago, maybe even 6 months ago, that you would not even look at today?
So it's not just a matter of discerning. It's also sectors come into favor, out of favor, and your tolerance to take the kind of risk that says if we get a lot of traffic, we'll figure out what to do with it. That tolerance for that type of risk, comes down a bit. So I think a year ago there was a lot of excitement around Facebook applications and building on that platform. I don't think that's a vibrant area of investment today. Likewise, a lot in digital photography, music. These are all segments that consumers love. There's a lot of interest in services. There's a lot of startups, but it's been very tough to make money. So rolling the dice on a derivative play there, not going to happen. And in general, I think Web 2.0 is at a point where folks want to see real business models and not just features that are cool and get a quick pop.
Okay, and we'll talk about business models in our next interview, but just quickly one question about ad networks, because you are behind Adify. Would you invest in an ad network today?
Yes, we would.
Okay.
The ad network, the fundamentals behind ad networks are still very strong. Basically, you have traffic on the web follows a long tail distribution curve, meaning there's millions and millions of sites. People are spending less time in the top 10 sites and more time on everything else. But revenue is like a 98-2 rule. 2% of the sites or even less get the vast majority, 98% of the revenue.
Yeah.
And that's got to change. And the way you do that is through ad networks, because it's the only way to efficiently buy all these sites out there on the tail if you're an advertiser or an agency. So those fundamentals haven't changed. It's why you've seen 20 successful M&A exits for ad networks. It's a great business model.
It's a great business model. You had success with Adify. You're looking for another one. Anyone out there with an ad network, you can contact Brian on Vader. He'll be back, and we're going to talk about ShopFlick and some other companies that Venrock and Brian himself at Venrock invested in. So, Brian, thank you for your insight into what's happening across the venture capital industry. I've been speaking with Brian Asher. He's a venture capitalist at Venrock. I'm Bambi Francisco.